Today we're looking at the Mark II katana versus the Mark III, which we just got in. We are sitting Glenn down for the first time to check them out. He's got fresh ears in the morning, so we're gonna see how he can experience them for the first time. We just have them on a Boss, line switcher back and forth, so he's in real time switching. Mic'd up with two SM57s through a Steinberg interface with Neve preamp transformers on, just for extra juice. And yeah. Sir Classic S guitar,
This guitar can do anything.
It can do anything.
It's the catch-all guitar.
As these amps can mostly do anything as well,
true.
so we thought it was a good pairing. So Glenn, why don't you get in here and check out the two amps that we have today?
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's start by just hearing where they're at. Clean, EQ straight up, no reverb, no delay. It's just everything straight up on the clean mode. First, I'll show you the Mark II, something that we're pretty familiar with. Here's Mark III.
Wow, okay. Go back to the two. Interesting.
The III sounds a lot more open. A little more scooped in the mids, but I like that because I feel like the clean channel on the older katanas is more geared towards like a fat, full, warm sound.
Definitely.
If you're into something a little bit more jangly, I think that the Mark III seems to give you that right out of the gate.
Give us like a rapid fire back and forth.
2, 3.
One thing I feel like I'm hearing is more of the actual guitar in the III. I feel like I'm hearing more of the strings and kind of the components of it more transparently right away than the two. Which is probably that mid EQing kind of scoop or difference that they have, because it's going to give you potentially a flatter response at 12 o'clock or wherever you have it set generally. But
yeah, right. Yeah, right off the bat on the III, I don't feel like I would change much about the EQ from where it's at right now, which is straight up. The two, I'd probably nudge the treble up a little bit and duck the mids back a little.
Right. Which isn't hard to do. It's not a hard move to make.
No.
And I'm sure we can match them pretty closely so that maybe you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But the point is that right away they start at spots that are, one might be more advantageous to you over the other.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. A little bit more of a friendly spot for general guitar playing, I find. Okay, so let's add a little bit of reverb and delay.
Still sounds great.
I mean, yeah, it's a familiar, great sound. It really is. Let's hear what we get by doing the exact same thing out of Mark III. Mark II. Two, Mark III. Pretty similar.
Yeah.
Pretty similar. A little more compression coming from the Mark III is what I hear. I can hear it kind of grabbing some of those low notes picking up the information and just carrying it along a little bit more than what I get from the Mark II. Not really a better or worse thing. You know, you might want something that's a little bit less compressed and more immediate. I don't know if the compression levels inherently in the Katana are something that you can change in the software editor. I've never cracked open the software editor, which is kind of a testament to how versatile the Katanas are just with the controls that you have on board.
True.
But okay, so that sounds pretty similar to me. The other way that I would usually go about getting my sound is more often than not on the crunch mode. I do have to re-EQ it compared to the clean mode because it's a little less full-bodied, a lot more bright. So we're going to dial that up in the Mark II, see what we get there, replicate that in the Mark III, and see if we notice any difference. Let's hear that. Mark III. I immediately want to play more.
Yeah.
Hearing the crunch mode through Mark III. And without spending too much time with it, my initial feeling is that it's coming from that more open and dynamic top end that the 3 seems to have. I haven't watched any videos or heard anything about the Mark III just because I wanted to save myself for actually playing them in person. But one thing I do understand about the Mark III is that there's some mojo that's been done with how the preamp and the power amp and the speaker that they have internally and how they all work together to provide an amp-like experience, or as amp-like as they possibly can. And I do get that feeling right away from the crunch mode here as opposed to this. But let's kind of go back and forth again. So this is Mark II again. 3. 2. 3. Pretty dynamic.
Yeah.
That's nice. Immediately preferring the Mark III. For the crunch mode, which on my Katana, I'm pretty much always on the crunch mode. So that's a big +1 there. Let's finally get into the push mode.
Let's check that out.
Which is one of the newest features and more obvious features of the Mark III. And like Connor mentioned, seems designed for someone like me who's either pushing the clean channel to get somewhere or taming down the crunch channel to get in between those two modes. So for context, maybe we should hear the gained up clean sounds again.
Yeah, get the Mark II to where you think
Yeah.
the pushed mode is going to be.
Yeah,
If you'd guess what they designed that to do, try to figure out anticipate what it's going to sound like.
Okay.
And then we'll see how close you are, how close we are to thinking about it, if we're right.
Let me just get this queued up to the push mode right away. All right. So here's clean mode on the Mark II with a little bit like 25% of the green booster. Reverb and delay are the same as they've been. Great sound. Okay. Without further ado.
Maybe starts at a lower gain.
I was just going to say,
you know,
a little less
wants
gain.
to be pushed.
A little less gain than I was expecting. So let's pull that up a little bit, and let's turn the actual volume knob up a little bit too. And I'm going to bring a little bit more mids into the mix. The way those high mids are crunching. Mm-hmm. That's the stuff. It's just switching to the bridge pickup. Very dynamic. I can get a totally different sound just by going to the neck pickup. Range, and the tone does change slightly as you're going through your volume knob, but not in a way that I commonly find in a lot of other rigs where it gets really dark when you're rolling down the volume control. Like this thing maintains that really great three-dimensional sweet top end that we're talking about every time we've heard a setting on this Mark III.
And the frequencies that it starts to actually distort or clip sound, they have a different voicing than maybe what the crunch mode would offer you.
Definitely.
You know, it sounds like, I think you said maybe like a higher mid crunch, or that's where it's starting to distort, and that sounds very much maybe like a Marshall style thing pushed.
Yep.
You know, less Fendery as you can maybe boost it, but like if you then roll it back, it gets a little Vox-ish.
Well, I was just going to say, that's one thing that I felt like I wasn't ever really able to get in the Mark I and the Mark II, was a Vox thing.
Okay.
Fender things, sure. Pushed Fender things, sure.
Definitely.
Low gain Marshall, yes. High gain Marshall, yes. But Vox, not so much. So, that being said, let me bring the gain back just a little bit, and I'm going to open the top end up even more.
So we're going now actively for a Vox kind of sound.
Let's just see what we get.
The attack of that is very Voxy.
Chimey.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the top end is like, how do they always describe the Voxes? Like crushed glass.
Cool. So, okay, so to round out all the sounds now and kind of bring us home, let's get them high gained out and just see.
Yes, sir.
Give us some crazy, wacky, over the top 80s crap, and just, you know.
Crap.
Well, I don't want to overstate what we're about to hear, but I mean, yeah, maybe some effects, some layers, to really just get these things cooking in that realm. If you want to just take them to the max.
Sure. Take them to the limit.
Yeah. Take them to the limit one more time and bring us home.
Yes. Okay, so here's brown mode on Mark II. Gains maybe 60% of the way up. I do have the treble wound back a little bit. Katanas tend to get a little bright as you introduce the higher gain modes. And I brought the reverb and delay up just a little bit, just for some extra grease. This is Mark II.
Fun with a Mark II.
Yes, yeah, of course. Let's hear what we get now out of the Mark III on the similar setting.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's good.
A little more compression, again, seems to be a running theme. And I'd probably boil that down to this attempt in the Mark III to continue to make the Katana sound more and more like a tube amp. I think they've done that. Let's hear that on the Mark II again, though.
Yeah, bring
Because
us-
Mark II's no slouch on that sound.
No, definitely not.
When we turned the Mark II on and heard that brown sound, I was like, in my mind, I was like, how could the Mark III be that much better? But then when you play the Mark III brown mode and then go back to the Mark II, it's kind of obvious, actually. Also, I want to point out, when I first turned this side on and I missed a note, the amp's natural
It caught it.
vivaciousness just picked it up and
Yeah.
saved me.
Right, yeah.
That's kind
I
of
did
cool,
notice that.
actually.
What's cool as well is it sounds like a studio tone in the way that the wet effects are translating. Like I can hear them, I can hear all the wet effects with great clarity, even at that high gain setting, which is a really cool feature, I think, that makes those things usable within the amp, and so can encourage you to get the foot switch option and start to, build your rig around just the built-in effects of a Katana, which they translate so well in that way.
I mean, let's face it, you and I have both owned a lot of different pedals and have owned a lot of different rigs to accomplish a lot of different things. Lots of delays, lots of reverbs, lots of this and that. When I play Katana, I'm never thinking, I wish I had this delay pedal, or I wish I had this reverb. Never. Now that's because, of course, the convenience of having it there I'm appreciative of, but also they're Boss effects. And at the end of the day, do you really need much more than a Boss effect? You might enjoy something other than a Boss effect, but do you really need anything more than a Boss effect? When it comes to time-based stuff, they've just got it locked in.
And for the package of a Katana, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, what you're paying for it, I think, what are the Mark IIIs at now? The 100 watts are $400? We can double check that.
Somewhere around there.
We'll link all this in the description, but yeah, I mean, think about the value that you're getting of all of those quality effects built in, married with the architecture of this amp to just respond perfectly well in every case. That's almost a priceless piece of gear to own, whether it's your main thing or it's your backup rig, because again, I have two 100 Mark IIs. You've had a Mark I for however long.
The Mark 150.
Mark 150.
It's an old battle axe, that thing.
Yeah, so I think it's a utility piece. It's also when you can build in a lot of effects and build into a nice package, everything you would need to go whatever direction, it's a freeing kind of experience as well. So I think
Definitely.
maybe you do have big cabs or combos that you like to gig with, but have one of these in addition to those, because it's just a great utility amp. It's a backup or whatever,
Yeah, that's what my 50's always been.
Yeah, right.
It's just rolled around in my trunk for years. And of course I pull it out for rehearsals, and it's also my living room amp. But I've played plenty big gigs with it. Never had an issue, never failed. I think everyone should have one. I can't think of a reason to not have one. I could think of a ton of reasons that pretty much any kind of guitar player should. And that's, of course, mostly down to the fact that it's pretty affordable for everything that you get, but we love them. We've always loved them.
Yeah,
Big fans.
you can record line out. You can use them. I don't know if you can use them as an interface necessarily. I'll have to check that.
No.
But in any case, I think you can. I think you probably can.
You probably could.
Yeah, because they have USB. The new Mark IIIs have USB-C as opposed to USB-B on the Mark II and ones. But yeah, there's no reason not to own one, like we're saying. And they're in stock now. And we have the 100s, the 50s, and a 212 100 watt with more on the way. And if you want the 50s that we have in stock, we can make you a nice deal on those too, I'm sure. But
Yeah, absolutely.
what else can we say?
What else can I say? Boss has done it again. Me likey. Me buy one. Me probably buy one.
I think so.
My Katana is on its last legs.
Yeah, you need one regardless. So
Yeah, the poor
get
old
the three.
old gal is still working, but the old Katanas don't have power amp in, and I kind of need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great amp. And also, The fact that it's right near my head and not like taking my head off with treble and like weird annoying frequencies is awesome. Like it's very pleasing to hear right next to my head.
That translates to the audience experience, by the way.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you're bringing a Spider, Line 6 Spider, and trying to crank that thing over a drum set, as opposed to something like this nowadays, your audiences will thank you, and they'll ask you, what were you playing up there? What's that tone? You can say confidently, I think, a Boss Katana in a lot of cases.
Confidently, as if you were an ancient shogun, you will just say katana and walk away. Can't stab yourself with it, but you can stab people with tone.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Yes.
Like this. That's a tonal stab.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell notification when we post more of these, and we'll do more reviews and more gear shootouts in the future. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.